Sony's latest Angry Dad game is evidence that the PC is the ultimate video game unifier, and a great reminder of how the platform can bring out the best in games. I've killed my way across Midgard at 30 FPS on a PS4 and 4K on PS5, but I do not think I can go back to either after 24 hours of buttery smooth monster chopping at 90 plus FPS. This is a damn good port. At least on my higher-end PC. If you've skipped God of War 2018 or haven't touched the series at all, this is the God of War to play. All you need to know going in is that Kratos was Athena's best murder man until he was betrayed and decided to kill all of the gods, including his daddy, Zeus. This soft reboot picks up years later. In that time, Kratos left a now godless Greece and wandered into the Norse lands, where he gained a wife who has just passed away at the start of the game, a son named Atreus, and a glorious beard. God of War is its restraint. It's a small story in a world of gigantic characters. Kratos and Atreus aren't out to save the world, they just want to spread their wife, mother's ashes on a big mountain. They're not looking for a fight, but end up walking into a bunch of them because apparently Midgard has been a nightmare land of evil trolls, poison, witches, and zombies for the last century or so. Much of the game is basically carving a path through this broken world, unraveling the petty god drama that led to its ruin. As most PC ports do, God of War offers plenty of settings that allow you to customize and tailor the game to whatever you have. Frankly, as someone with a more simplistic setup, I was able to keep a lot of the settings at their default state without the game's quality suffering. Aside from the annoying splitting of the different subtitle settings into two different categories, I was satisfied with what was offered. Really, I don't have much to say regarding the PC port. I changed up a few graphical settings like lighting and shadows to suit my taste, turned on VSYNC so the game ran smoothly with my lower-end monitor, and I was good to go. God of War ran great on the PS4, and if you have a simple computer, it's great on the PC as well. Moving through the world as Kratos is an interesting and varied experience. The environments are genuinely beautiful. Even when I lowered my settings, the details never really suffered. As the camera follows behind Kratos' shoulder, you get a full view of one of the game's strongest points. Beyond that, God of War's more mundane exploration moments or enemy encounters are filled with sweet observations from Atreus as he educates Kratos on the lessons and stories his mother told him before her passing. Those were the moments I really enjoyed. The space where Kratos and Atreus could just exist outside of fighting and killing. It's Kratos, however, who winds up doing most of the learning, and the bulk of that comes from Atreus' unspoiled curiosity and kind-heartedness. The boy probes his father about why things might happen a certain way, or what someone might have felt about them, and Kratos' mythological death machine that he is will reflexively answer with some terse variation of "I do not know and I don't care." Kratos' failure as a parent is driven by two factors, it turns out. First, there was his famously strained relationship with his own father, Zeus, which ultimately resulted in Kratos beating Zeus to death after nailing him to Gaia's heart in God of War 3. The second reason is much more relatable. Kratos is trying to protect Atreus by withholding information from him. He doesn't want to tell his son that he's a god. For me, this is the most powerful piece of God of War, better than its kinetic and punchy combat, better than its grand visuals and sweeping sound design. At the core of the story is a compassionate understanding of a familiar phenomenon, that parents lie to their children, and that even though they do this for reasons that are usually noble, that dishonesty, that urge to overprotect, has a cost that will one day come due. God of War gives you a mountain of display settings to tweak and accessibility options to configure, showcasing Sony's efforts to make full use of the benefits of Windows and PC gaming. Of course, I cannot test God of War on every possible PC configuration out there. but the fact it works as well as I can expect on my hardware, despite not having a day one update, I'd say it bodes well for general performance, hopefully. On to performance, God of War is a simple marvel on the art direction department too. The music is majestic and varied, cutting deep in the game's most emotional moments, and ascending with cinematic intensity during set-piece boss events. Every axe hit, bone split, and skull smash can be felt with delicious excess. God of War is an audiovisual work of art, and the quality of its PC port bodes well for future Sony games making their way from PlayStation to Windows. God of War is a rare game that very effortlessly marries its art direction with its story and gameplay delivery too, which also defy expectations. This aforementioned journey is no word of a lie. Epic. Your starting realm is Midgard, aka Realm of the Normies. It's the largest area, and one you'll return to and spend the most time in. It's a cold place. The iron-gray waters of the lake around Tyr's temple changing as the great loops of a giant snake move. The water level drops, and new, strange shores emerge. You tramp through mud and snow, and sometimes over bright green moss. You can easily pad the 20 or so hours of the story to well over 30 if you explore all the optional nooks and crannies of Midgard. And some of these are the best bits of the game. Exploring the halls of long-dead mountain kings or haunted mines full of giant crystals. You use the axe in small platforming puzzles here as well. Freezing gears on doors in place or smashing wooden boards to clear a path for Atreus so he can then throw down a chain for you to climb. The only combat irritant comes in the form of the Hellfoes, an uncommon blue enemy type that resists your ice-based axe attacks. Axe strikes glance off of them, so they can only be damaged with unarmed combat, or with your second weapon type that's unlocked later in the game. The problem with enemies like these is that their resistance immediately undermines half of your kit. An entire weapon's worth of abilities are rendered useless when fighting against them. It's a frustrating limitation that makes these foes much less fun to fight than any other. DMC, Devil May Cry and Bayonetta also have a handful of these obnoxious enemies, and they're just as annoying in those titles. God of War establishes a fine foundation for what is inevitably to come. It combines the older game's spectacle and set pieces with new, RPG-like mechanics, terrific action, and great visuals to create a well-rounded, action-adventure package. The camera may not be ideal. The frame rate could be more consistent, and some enemies could be more interesting, but there is still a lot to love about God of War on PC. Overall, God of War is just as good now as it was back in 2018.